My mom played guitar, dad played guitar. Both of my grandparents on both sides played guitar. That was our life, music, right? The whole family all the way around. So it was just, destiny for me to grab a guitar and start learning. When I picked up the first guitar, it was in my house out of like probably about 5 or 6 guitars that were laying around. I just fell in love with it. Well, the feeling was I just got lost in it, man. I was like, I just remember my mom calling out, "You gonna eat dinner?" And I go, "Oh, I'm sorry." I picked up the guitar like 4 or 5 hours before that. If somebody wouldn't have called me out on it, I'd have probably been playing all night till bedtime. So I put in my time. I remember getting out of bed and my guitar was leaning up on my bed. First thing I did was grab it and start, playing. I was studying pretty much everything from rock to blues to jazz. But country was the basis of what I was playing. As a kid, my mom and dad were always like thinking, we got to get him to Nashville, because that's where it's all happening. We loaded up into the Ford Econoline van, headed to Nashville, and my mom and dad decided to pull up in the back of RCA studio. And sure enough, we pulled up, and there was Chet walking into the back door, and Mom goes, "Gary is, get out, go on." They slid that door open and pushed me out. I was like a deer in the headlights, and I was playing a gut string guitar, following Chet into the building, like I was in a mariachi band or something, right? I followed him. He Maybe he didn't hear me, or he didn't notice me, or he didn't want to. Walked in, and the door shut, and I was like, "Mom, why did you do that? This is abuse." All right, the move full time is when I corresponded with a steel guitarist, Paul Franklin, and I had sent a tape off to him. They started playing it on the bus. I think it was a Tillis band guys, and they loved my playing. So I got invited to Nashville. So I ended up moving there, feeling like, well, I at least I have a connection now. They got me a gig at the Stagecoach Lounge, so that's where it all started. I was about 19 or 20 when I started that. It was kind of a musician's musician place, right? I played it at the Stagecoach about 7 nights a week. The word started getting out that, man, this is a hot band, right? This one night, Chet Atkins showed up, started blowing solos. Like, oh shit. He was watching me play, and he was all, I'd noticed he was out there. Talked to him, he loved my playing and everything, and then about a week later, I got a call at home. He was asking me if I'd like to play on his Stay Tuned album. And, my heart was in my throat at that point. And he goes, "How you looking on the calendar for next Thursday?" So I was trying to act cool. I had a calendar pinned up in the kitchen, wall, and I was looking at it. It looked like a snowstorm, right? And I was going, "Thursday, yeah, Thursday's going to work. Thursday will work great, or Friday, Wednesday before it didn't, So he asked me to play on this record. And it was like, this was my big break. first came to Nashville, I didn't have much money. I'd have to trade one guitar in to get another guitar, so that's how this came about. I wanted to have a Les Paul, a Tele, and a Strat, like to have all three, though I could cover a lot of ground. When I bought this guitar, of course, it wasn't bought like this with the 3 pickups. So Joe Glazer put a mini humbucking style pickup in this middle pickup with a volume, and of course the back, the bridge. It was my attempt to get a guitar that plays everything, all the sounds, Okay, B-Bender. I was working on a Patty Loveless album way back in the early 90s, and her husband Emery Gordy Jr. was producing it. And I was doing licks like, I can't even do it now, right? All those kind of bends like that. And Emery was going, hey, you got a B-Bender, great. That's really loaded up with B-bending licks. And I was going, oh, shit. I didn't tell him I didn't have a B-Bender because I didn't want to lose the gig. The blood was coming off my fingertips trying to, all these, all these kind of things like that. I thought I was fooling them, and when I went home, I go, I got to get a B-Bender for this guitar. So I put one in. Okay, this guitar has a lot of versatility. I use this guitar on the obvious things like Alan Jackson, George Strait, and all that kind of stuff. But I use it on the soundtrack of Friends, it was a lot of walk-on stuff where it was more like bluesy stuff, It's got all of its right here for everybody that wants to play the stuff like I play, but even their own stuff. It doesn't have to be me, right? It's a very versatile guitar, and I think they're going to find it, like real satisfying that it can play all different styles and sound good. So we would show up at the studio, and we didn't know what we were going to play on until we got there. We've never seen the music. The music might not even be written out yet. Sometimes the records were made pretty fast. I remember, I'll tell you one story. There was an artist, Tracy Bird, and I did some kind of a gut string intro on it. And about 6 months later, George Strait did a song. And somehow I forgot about the Tracy Bird song, and I played sort of the same intro on it. Well, somehow they all came out at the same time. The records came out at the same time, and they were on the charts right neck and neck. And all the music goes, hey, you played the same lick on. I go, oh, God, I know. It's embarrassing. What it takes to be a successful session player in Nashville, there's a lot of elements that go into that. First of all, you got to be a good study of music. You got to know your history of music to conjure it up on a minute's notice. It's an important thing to really understand the artist that you're working with. It's really not about me as a guitar player, it's about what I can present to them and help their song. And a good person, a nice person, not an a-hole, right? There's a new evolution now, and it's time for that. I'll show up in a session, I'll see guys that are my daughter's age, right? I'm looking around and go, wow. But I still am a session dog, you know? You call me, I'll be there, and I got like a whole week booked next week.
You still love it?
Yeah. I love it.